This is JCU Conversations, a podcast show from James Cook University, Singapore. Tune in as we ask experts in the industry more about their lives and their approach to success. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's listen to today's episode.
Hi, I'm Professor Dean Jerry. This is JCU Conversations, a podcast show from James Cook University, Singapore, where we ask experts in the industry more about their lives and their approach to success. Our guest today is Andreas Von Scholten, Chief Executive Officer of Barramundi Group, one of the top barramundi producers in the world that is also focused on sustainable aquaculture. He will be sharing with us about his professional journey and current mission with the Barramundi Group. Welcome, Andreas. Thank you for joining JCU Conversations.
Thank you very much for having me, Dean.
It's our pleasure to have you here and to learn all about what makes you tick and where you've come from in your current career position. So we can start, if that's okay, Andreas. So could you start by explaining a little bit about what Barramundi Group does and how it delivers sustainable barramundi?
Yes, absolutely. So we are very proud to be, a Singapore homegrown company that has had a focus on barramundi. As I think all of us here know barramundi very well, a brilliant species that we believe holds a lot of promise for the future. So our company has been focusing for the past 15 years on really producing the world's best barramundi. And we believe that doing it in the ocean is the best place to farm and grow barramundi, as it gets the natural taste and texture. And so I think from our very humble beginnings some 14 years ago, we've now grown, I should say, to become one of the leading producers in the world, with operations across both Singapore, Australia, and latest additions in Brunei, producing more than 2,000 tons of barramundi, serving a multitude of restaurants and hotels around the world. So tremendously excited to be in part of this company and the journey that we are embarking upon.
Yeah, and you alluded to, a bit about why barramundi is the chosen species that Barramundi Group is focusing on. Like, there's 640 aquaculture species to date, I think, and still counting, that are under culture. Why just barramundi?
I shouldn't ask you this. I mean, you know this very well, being I guess Australia native. But I think the first and most important reason is it's a great taste, great tasting fish that I truly love to eat as a consumer. It has a brilliant taste. It's got that clean taste. It's a white fish. So I think that from a consumer perspective, I don't think it gets much better than that. And I think from a producer's perspective, it also happens to be very suitable to be farmed in aquaculture. So I think it's both good from a consumer and a producer perspective. And I think what I think is unique is that we have had this focus on barramundi production, knowing that we think it can have the potential to be the salmon of the tropics, to reach much greater heights in the future. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, well, you've got me sold. Aquaculture is a new industry, right? How did you find yourself entering this world of aquaculture?
Yeah, I got here through a little bit of sideways. I was came into aquaculture from human health, actually. So I was in a human health job, being approached by someone who told me about vaccines for fish and how that's really about to take off, and how if I wanted to help to bring vaccinations to fish in Asia Pacific. So I was very proud happy to take on that role, which is in a company called Pharmac, that I joined about it must have been more than 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. And in that role, I was introduced to a lot of different producers in the Asia Pacific region, and eventually introduced to Barramundi Group, with their presence in Singapore, and also has a very, as you mentioned, strong focus on sustainability and even doing vaccinations. So I think that's sort of how I through weird ways from human health to animal health and then into food production became part of Barramundi Group. So certainly, when I first was asked if I wanted to join Barramundi Group, I think what I found in the company was really a company that not a lot of companies are really daring to make bold bets about the future and to really try to bet 100% on one species. But that's sort of the passion and the vision I found behind Barramundi Group, and knowing that the company had a vision to really bring Barramundi to the whole world and create more farms around the world. I was like, I said, this is exactly the type of company that I'm so keen to work with, and I've been very happy with my decision some 2 years ago.
Yeah, and of course you've taken on the lofty position of CEO of Barramundi Group. I guess a lot of people don't understand what a CEO does. Is there any common myth about what you do?
Well, that's a good question. I actually haven't heard so many myths about what I'm doing, but I suspect that there's probably a lot of talks about and concepts around what is a CEO doing. I think it's actually not so different from any other job. It's about to have a number of things, and you have to do this probably more than others. But I think I guess what I think is the most important thing is to ensure that to have a strong team around me that where we all are I would say very open and upfront with each other. We can talk the truth. We can challenge each other and make each other better. I think so. It's almost like captain of a football team, where you really want to make sure that you have the best people on all the right positions. I guess that's where I see myself. So it's not like when you think you sit in a corner office and you just make all the big decisions. It's a really hands-on job, which I also truly love. I mean, it's supposed to be like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure when you go out to sea cages, you don't hesitate to pick up a handful of food just to chuck in, get that excitement of that barramundi buffing.
See if they're still eating as fast as they should, then yeah.
Yeah. What is one of the most important lessons you've learned over your career to where that's helped you sort of get to where you are now?
So I think I guess what if I look back at my still humble career, I think what I have at least not been afraid to do is to take on new challenges and to sometime say, okay, well, this may or may not go right, but I dare to make a move, and I dare to move to a new country or take on a role that I didn't have before, or take on more responsibilities, doing things that may not have been in my core, but having the confidence that whatever way I'll have to learn. And so I think it really that's I think not being afraid to take on new challenges and to I guess take me wherever the world wants me to. I guess that's also why I've been probably living in all parts of the world by now, and I don't think I'm done exploring the world. So it's
yeah. Well, let's hope we can travel again and explore the world quite freely.
I still look forward to that day where I'll be able to come visit you in Australia without no quarantines. And
yeah, it'd be my pleasure to have you here. You've said you had quite a number of years of experience working across different parts of the world. Was there anything particular about Singapore that attracted you to come to Singapore besides obviously working with the world's best fish, barramundi?
Actually, I started living in Asia some 11 years ago. I started living in Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and I've always had a lot to do with Singapore. And I found myself every time I was on a Singapore Airlines or even other airlines for the matter, but arriving at Changi Airport, just the smell and the humidity, I had a really good feeling of returning home somewhat, even before I lived in Singapore. So actually, from the very early days in my journey in Asia, I had a very, very good impression with Singapore. I guess it's a combination of the climate, the fact that it's clean, it's safe, it's just a very great place to live. So I think there's multiple things that makes me quite excited. But when I was given a choice and had the opportunity to move to Singapore, I didn't hesitate for a second. And I've been very proud to call Singapore my home for the past almost 5 years. So time flies.
5 years, wow. And of course, Singapore is quite well known for its food, right? That's one of its other attractions. And now, if you took off your corporate hat, do you have a favorite meal?
I was actually thinking about this. I probably have a lot of favorite meals. I guess I should say that Barramundi certainly is one of my favorite meals, but I'm also not shy of eating other things. So I think if you ask me, I think if I were to go down the seafood route, it will be Barramundi, but I also really like lobster. In a grilled way with some garlic or some chili. I think that's something that I really like. And also, I'm also really fond of a good steak for a celebration, occasion. So I think that'll be where you'll find me in a restaurant.
Yeah. Let's move on from that question. It's getting close to dinner time. Now you've just made me hungry. So sustainability and having a social license for production is becoming quite paramount in many industries, including aquaculture. What do you believe is the key to sustainability for the aquaculture industry in general?
That's a very good question, Dean, and I think I'm glad you brought it up. I think you did mention about how Barramundi Group has a focus on sustainability, and we believe, although we consider ourselves as a leader within sustainability in our region, we are only just beginning. I think it's such a tremendously important agenda that not only will help all of us to get make the global planet survive, but also for all of us to, I guess, feel better about what we eat, that it's coming from the right sources and the fish has been treated the right way. I think if there's one thing I would say is that we don't proclaim to be, leading that sustainable aquaculture in the world, but I think we are very proud to at least wanting to take a step further and do everything we can within our merits to do things as sustainably as we can, whether that's using renewable energy, using certified feed, protecting the fish welfare. I think that's only some of the things that we are working on. And I think if I look at what's the most important thing, for the world in terms of sustainability, and I think it's really that more producers really, take on that, responsibility and get on with the important agenda, because only then we're just a fraction of the production, right? So if we can get more involved and have consumers to start asking questions that, hey, we want only to eat sustainable produced food, I think that'll drive a lot more of my fellow producers to do the same thing. Ultimately, helping the sort of the population and the like. So it's a long journey, but we are very firm in our commitment to sustainability.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. We're all in this together, and we've all got a place to play in ensuring that we do everything in a sustainable manner for the future. What's one of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now, and how are you going to overcome it?
Well, I think being a very ambitious and aggressive company, we have a very big growth agenda, and we are trying to build and grow our operations in all of our 3 production sites, which puts a lot of, constraints on all of us. We are asked to do a lot of things. I think we have a very exciting agenda in Singapore, where it's our home base, where we look to double our production. That's a big accomplishment for a relatively small company. In Australia, we're doing the same, and in Brunei, we're building a whole new greenfield operation from scratch. Which not only is new for Brunei, but even the whole aquaculture industry is a fairly new industry under development in Brunei. So we also help to really uplift the level of knowledge around aquaculture in that. So we are really, I would say, we're trying to succeed in all of our locations, and I think having a very clear focus on the next steps and do everything right, I think is I guess the biggest challenge right now.
And if we look forward in 5 years, both for Barramundi Group and the aquaculture sector in general, what do you think it will look like compared to now, given that it is a rapidly evolving industry?
Exactly. I mean, I joined the aquaculture industry some 5 years ago, and I think I probably mentioned this before, but the first thing my colleagues told me that once you get into aquaculture, you're never going to leave, because it's such a tremendously growing industry that where you there's just so many things to be done, and we are really just still at the very beginning. So, and I fully believe that trend is going to continue for the next 50 years. So how much it'll develop over the next 5? I don't know, but I'm sure that a species like Barramundi will be even more wide known than it is today. I think it'll have reached a global audience. I think it'll have reached to Europe, even more in the US. So not a small new species, as I think really an established species. And I think the industry as a whole will have seen a lot more consolidation. A lot bigger companies will have come in. I expect that it's sort of the same as what the salmon industry went through over a 10 to 20 year period. I expect that for tropical species, where Barramundi is one of them, that this development will actually be much faster. So I expect that we're going to be in for a heck of a ride for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think you're right. And my final question, Andreas, is you're quite a young CEO anyway, but if you were able to travel back in time, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I actually think I've gone with my gut in a lot of instances, but I would say that always to feel what do you think is the right thing to do, and I think that there's probably some choices that if I hadn't taken so much in what the surrounding and the families, the friends were saying, then I would maybe had made my own choices and a bit different. I think that probably is my best advice, because I think you can never undo your life. I mean, do what you love and go for your dreams, go for your passions. I think then you'll be happy. You can be successful, unsuccessful. I think that's not so important, as long as you really follow through. I think that then you'll ultimately be very happy. No regrets.
Well, on that note, with no regrets, this has been a wonderful discussion, Andreas. Thank you for joining JCU Conversations. And I guess if any of our listeners want to find out more about you and Barramundi Group, where can they find you?
We have a wonderful website, barramundi.com. We are also on LinkedIn, on Instagram. So I think there's multiple places. I'm also myself on LinkedIn and like to share things. So more than happy to guide people through the various platforms.
Okay, well, thank you very much again, and we look forward to hearing of future successes of yourself and Barramundi Group.
Thanks so much for having me, Dean.